Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video of Fox Reacts. Today we're checking out the second part of turning backroom entities into supervillains by Pop Cross Studios. Let's hop in and see just which entity is turned into a brand new supervillain.
Despite the fact that the Backrooms definitely isn't the most popular topic I work with on this channel, since, I'll use Marvel characters and Pokemon and
It may
Minecraft,
not be popular,
I
but
think this
it
might
is
actually be
still
one of the
well
most
known.
approachable series I'm doing on the channel. Because you don't
That's what many
actually
people know.
need any specific knowledge base going into this to enjoy the story and artwork. Though, admittedly,
really.
it probably is more fun for you if you know stuff about the Backrooms and the entities that I'm adapting into supervillains
Oh yeah, I
stuck in
watched that
Backcell's
video.
prison. But I have been
Well,
so
Backrooms
lit up
explained.
creatively by going through Backrooms community-driven
What
lore
the-
to write the story for these episodes, and
Was
I've got
that
a
a
lot of
brand
plans
new
in mind
Crab
for it,
Rave meme?
including a definitive ending, though whether or not that ending comes in 2 episodes or 10 episodes will depend on whether or not I can make the story good enough that you all want to keep watching for a
support
long
them out.
time.
Let's see
I'm
if
gonna
we
keep
can
doing
get
my
them
best,
to
but either
try to
way,
at
I
least
definitely
do
think you're all gonna
half the
enjoy this next
entities.
chapter. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's go! Hit like if you want.
Follow what he
Subscribe
says.
if you feel like. But either way, enjoy the show.
Let's enjoy this.
Day 15, trapped in Backcell's prison. Even though it's only been
Entity
one day
18.
since my last entry, an insane amount of stuff has happened. A lot of it was really freaky and horrible, but the few good things might have made it all worthwhile.
Wait,
Maybe.
is this?
After that psycho moth lady almost killed me in the old school hotel looking
It's
level
the
I was
deal
on,
maker.
and I discovered that the glowing green stuff I can emit from my hands can heal me with enough time, I took a quick nap to regain some
he just
energy,
straight up got the
then
head of
woke
a
up to the
cuttlefish.
sound of footsteps
So his head
headed
is a
towards me.
cuttlefish.
I probably should have hidden, but I just jumped up and threw my glowing fists up in front of me. At first, I couldn't see anything, even as the steps were getting closer and closer. I was looking all around trying to figure out where the sound was coming from until a voice
be
just
careful.
spoke out of nowhere. "Oh, I apologize. This must be dreadfully confusing to you, my boy." Then, like 10 feet in front of me, a guy just suddenly appeared.
Poof.
I think he must have had invisibility powers or something, but I never really saw him use it again, and
Probably
it's not like
camouflage.
that was the
Cuttlefish.
weirdest thing about him. He was decked out in much cleaner looking supervillain clothes than a lot of the other freaks I'd seen in here, and he stood tall and had a sort of snotty vibe about him, which is weird how
He
quickly
is
I
called
picked
the
up on
deal
that
maker.
considering his head was literally a big squishy squid. Obviously, I wasn't planning on trusting this guy right away since everybody
good.
else
You
down
shouldn't.
here had basically tried to kill me, but he did a decent job relaxing me at first. He was friendly and didn't get too close to make me think he'd attack me. He introduced himself as Gentleman Bestar.
Gentleman
Still don't know if that's a
Bestar?
villain name or what, but anyway,
I
he
don't
asked me
remember
how
that's
a
the
kid
actual
like me
entity's
had
name.
gotten stuck in Backcell's prison.
I call it the
and
deal
I told
maker
him
because it likes to
some
make
of
deals.
the truth, that I didn't really know much. I left out the fact that I'd only gotten my superpowers 2 days before clipping into this place, though. I was smart enough to know that he could still be a threat, and I didn't want him to know how little I knew about my own powers.
Imagine clipping
When my
into
guard
this
was
place
down
and
enough,
not
I
having
asked
any
him
powers.
if there was any way
You're
out of this
fucked.
place. He just kind of drummed his fingers together for a sec, then said he'd make
So he was
me a
just going like,
deal. He said he
told ya,
ran
deal
a
maker.
sort of show on this level to entertain the inmates to try and keep them from spending their time wreaking havoc. He said if I joined in on the show, he'd answer whatever questions I had. I asked him what kind of show it was, and he kept it a bit vague, and now I get why, but he said
Yeah,
it
you
was a
probably should've just
sporting
left.
competition, and for each round that I'd won, he'd give me more answers, such as where to find the key. He didn't
It's a
tell me
damn
anything else
Colosseum.
about what this so-called key was,
you're a
but just
gladiator
hearing the
to
words
him.
key made me way too eager to take the deal without asking any more questions. That's probably what he was going for
If you
now
meet a
that I
man
think
that
about
has a
it.
cuttlefish
I
for a
agreed,
head,
and he
don't
did
take his
something
deals.
kind of
It's
weird
kind of
that I
obvious.
still don't really get.
Then again, I
he
guess
tapped
you
a
didn't
finger
meet the
onto his
black cat.
forearm, and it didn't do anything. Then he looked sort of frustrated and mumbled something about a force of habit. Then he just turned and led me down the hallway. I followed him across the level, and the hotel sorta turned into more of a boiler room sorta look. Kinda like the level where I'd gotten chased down by Smaella. He brought me to this big
level 3, I
armored
believe.
door and turned the latch. As it opened, the sound of a mumbling crowd from inside suddenly turned to cheers. I peeked my head in to see that I was on the ground floor of a makeshift boiler room fighting ring. Above and
Oh,
around
there
it were a
it is.
few dozen inmates all banging at the cage that domed over the arena. Lining the outside of the ground level of the ring were a bunch of smaller cages with other people inside, some of them looking really beaten up. I
Oh
was about
boy.
to pull back and try and rethink this deal when Bestar suddenly shoved me into the ring and slammed the door shut behind
Yep,
me.
nice going, idiot.
Let's be real, I really should have seen that coming.
Yeah, never take a deal of a man with a damn cuttlefish for a head. That's why I call him the deal maker. He gives you a deal that's too true, too good to be true.
For the first few minutes I was in there, I was just standing in
Oh
the middle
God,
of the
the
ring,
hounds.
looking around for
Ooh,
any way out, as
I
the
like
crowd above me
these.
lost their minds. I eyed all the cages lining the arena to scope out my potential competition if I did have to fight. A lot of them
The easiest way of describing the Hound is if you ever seen the anime Full Metal Alchemist, you already know what I'm going with that. I don't have to say any more.
looked as fired up as the crowd despite their injuries, like they wanted to be here. There was a guy who was practically naked and had a bunch of extra arms and legs. There was a lady with crab claws who looked like she'd just come from a rave.
I know that
Honestly,
one, but I don't know
I
this
wanted
one.
to stay as far away from all these people as possible, but
Let's
I
see,
was
the
pretty
naked
sure that
guy
wasn't going
with
to be
the
an
extra
option.
limbs.
There only
I
seemed to be
believe that's
one
called
person
a
not
roll-off.
flipping out about my presence. She was this
Pink.
super ripped lady with pink hair who was extra chained up, even inside
In
her
a
cage.
future
She
episode.
just stared at me with a really sad, almost dead-eyed kind of look.
Hmm.
It almost creeped me out as much as the rest of the people.
Look at that.
After a few minutes, Bestar took his place in the crowd, and with a microphone, he spoke out over
Think
everyone
it's called
else.
roll-off.
He referred to
Curious
me
now.
as a special guest who
Oh, well.
no-clipped in just for today's show. The whole crowd got a good laugh out of the fact that I didn't know how or why I'd gotten into Baxel's prison, except for the pink-haired girl, who just seemed to get paler and more concerned looking as Bestar spoke.
Oh boy.
He asked the crowd who they thought I should go up against, and a bunch of names that I couldn't really make out were all shouted.
And
But
thus
after a
began
moment of
the
screeching
chanting
from the
of
freaks
hound,
above, Bestar
hound,
said,
hound,
I think it's
hound,
about time we give
hound,
another round to
hound.
Agrahound. Don't you all agree? The freaks
Agrahound.
lost it
Okay,
again, and
that's
suddenly
actually a pretty
one of the
good
cage
name. I
doors
gotta give you
popped
that.
open. I whipped around to see an 8-foot-tall dude who looked like a fleshy werewolf stomping into the arena. He had long black hair covering a bunch of his face, but his eyes glowed through the mess, and I instinctively looked away from his gaze. He said in a growling voice that I was too small and would barely make a good chew toy. Part of me wanted to try smack-talking back at him, but I was just
Yeah, what you need to do is
concentrated on
get the
trying to
fuck
keep my
out of there.
powers activated. Out of nowhere, he leapt towards me with his fang-filled mouth open. I dove to the ground and did a surprisingly good roll out of the way back to my feet. I
Okay.
threw my hands forward and
That's
shot
good,
2
at least.
blasts of my green glowy goop at him. One hit his shoulder and the other hit his head. It actually kind
Double
of looked
tap.
like it hurt him, and he for sure roared out like it had. He ran at me again and slashed both his arms towards me. I tried to dodge again, but he cut a claw
X-slash?
right across my side. I screamed out, and the crowd lost it.
And I
I
had
put my
lost.
glowy hands to my side right away to try and heal it, but at the slow speed I could heal myself, there wasn't much I could get done. I tried to just run away and duck around him while I healed myself. He chased me
Yeah, you
around
really
the
just
ring,
need
and
to
I
keep
managed
running
to at
from
least
this thing.
stop the bleeding, but by the time I did, he slashed me again and cut 3 fresh wounds into my leg. I rolled across the
damn.
ground and slammed my head into one of the cages. He took a second
Ow.
to flaunt his success to the crowd.
That's
Yeah,
kinda
a
hot.
real big tough guy beating up on a kid that's probably a third his age and half his size. I took the time he was giving me to at least heal my leg a bit when a voice suddenly spoke from behind me. Stare him in the eyes, kid. The voice was so close it made me jump.
him in
It was
the
the
eyes?
pink-haired lady who I could have sworn had been chained up to the wall seconds ago, but was now moving freely in her cage.
Wait.
The mutt here gets freaked out
Eyes.
by eye contact. Stare him in the eyes, then hammer on him with whatever you got. By the time she finished
Oh.
talking, Agrahound
That's
was stomping
interesting.
towards me again, so I really hoped her advice was useful. I got up and just started staring him right into his freaky mutant eyes.
Staring
It was
contest.
kind of hard to do, like something in me was screaming to look away, but I just kept on staring. He noticed quick and thrust his head towards me and roared in my face. His spit shot all over me, but I just
Gross.
kept staring him down and used all my courage to actually take a step forward. Surprisingly, he backed off a step, and I realized that the Pink Lady's advice might actually work.
Are hounds actually weak to eye contact? Huh. I gotta check out the Backrooms Explained again, see if they have any of that. Oh, hold on, folks. We got
I started
and we're back with Entity 67, the Party Goers. Ooh, now these ones I actually don't know because Backrooms Explain hasn't gone that far yet. They've only just gone past the Terra Hotel.
Doing as the pink lady suggested. I kept staring, lit up my hands, and started punching glowy stuff right into his chest and shoulders and stomach. He swung his
Oh,
arm
this is
at
the
me,
one he
but
used for the
slower than
thumbnail.
before, and I ducked under it easily and punched hard into his elbow. He was freaking out and
It
yelled at
looks
me
like
to
a
stop
yellow
staring
gummy.
at him. I couldn't believe how well this was actually working. Thinking about
Oh, he's making
actual
it
dogs
female.
for a sec, I took a shot right at his
Well, yeah,
nose,
it was steam
punching
on
as
the
hard as I
thumbnail.
could,
Come on,
and I
Fox.
think my powers might have activated because I hit him so hard that he flopped backwards to the ground. I kept staring him down as he scrambled backwards and shut himself back into his cage. The
Ooh.
crowd booed, which really annoyed me.
I actually
I
kind
thought
of
that
like.
had been pretty impressive.
Hold on. Sorry to interrupt you, bud, but I actually like how the smile on the mask is like painted and dried on. It kind of reminds me of the statue SCP. Yeah. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but you know the one I'm talking about. The one that literally has a graffiti sprayed on face.
Didn't matter anyway, Bestar owed me an answer now for that win. I held my hands to my injuries, healing them as much as I could, while I yelled up to him, asking how or why people ended up in Backcell's prison, forgetting for a sec about the
Is the
key he'd
villains?
mentioned earlier. I didn't bother asking him to let me go, because I was pretty sure I knew the answer to that. I'd have to figure out a different way out of here myself, and might as well get
You
some
gotta
answers
defeat
from him
him.
first. He said most people get sent here if they infuriate the wrong overseer, and then he cursed out some
Overseer?
guy named Dresden, but I have no idea who that is or what an overseer is, so I asked him if one
I'm
of
interested.
whatever those are could get me back out of here, but he said that just counted as me asking more questions, and he
God damn it.
immediately buzzed open another cage. The person that
Fine.
stumbled out next was one of the freakiest freaks I've come across. She had a full face mask and a sloppily painted on smiley face on it. Her hair was made out of yellow slime. Her hands were huge, and in her palms were big, toothy mouths.
Hey, kind of
She
reminds me
seemed
of
to
the
be
mind
dancing
leaks from the
towards
last
me instead of
episode. You know,
walking.
the guy that had that
I was
mouth
feeling
in
kind
his
of
chest.
confident off that first fight, until I heard banging on the bars of the cage from the pink lady behind me. Best, are you scum? He can't take on Funfeist, and you know it. The squid-faced guy
Funfeist?
just laughed and said, "Oh, look everyone, the
Funfeist.
unkillable Kate is going soft on our new fighter." I heard her spit up towards him, but was too distracted by the shifting freak coming at me. She was moving slow,
Whoa,
but she raised
the
her
hell's
creepy
going on?
mouth hands at me. Maybe this Kate person was just underestimating me, and I could take her. I fired my green bolts right into the mouths and the freak's hands, but they just expanded and swallowed the blast's whole.
Yeah, you
She
probably
chuckled and
shouldn't,
said,
aim
Oh,
at
that
the
was
mouth.
fun. You'll be a great addition to the party.
I had no idea what that meant,
What
and I
the
was pretty
fuck?
sure I didn't want to. I was about to start running around while I
caught me
thought
off
of
surprise.
something until I noticed that she was dragging her left foot across the dirt ground. I thought for a second that maybe it was a weakness I could take advantage of, but then
Hmm.
she just suddenly thrust that foot up and kicked a cloud of dust right into my eyes. It burned, and I
I
stumbled
see.
back and thrashed my
She
arms
was
trying
dragging
to
it
keep
to,
her
like,
away.
pull up some
But before my
dust.
eyes could even
Like
open, I
pocket
felt a
sand.
set of teeth clamp down onto my arm. I punched out with my other arm as I tried to open up my eyes, and as they slowly peeled open, I saw that my arm wasn't getting bitten off, but was getting pulled farther and farther inside hers. I quickly started to
Whoa.
lose all feeling in it as I punched at her over and over and over again, doing absolutely nothing.
Oh,
I
I
started
see why
getting
it's called
woozy, and my
Party
arm
Girls
was
now.
shifting into a yellow, leathery texture. The crowd roared out above me. I had no idea what to do. I kicked and punched, but nothing was
party
working. Part of
is
me almost wanted to
inside.
just give up and let this whole nightmare end. When a cage behind me suddenly got kicked open, a bandaged fist flew past my face and hammered into Funfeist's mask. My arm was released, and I collapsed back to the ground. The pink lady had gotten out of her cage and was hammering her fists into this freak.
Huh,
I didn't
thank
know
you,
if she
Kate.
had any powers or what, but her knuckles seemed to be splitting as she punched over and over and over again. Her hands
Wait,
were already
what?
dripping with blood after a minute of non-stop
Oh.
punches, but she
Her
didn't seem
knuckles
to
were
even
actually
notice, and she
splitting.
cracked Funfeist's mask as she slammed her to the ground. Kate spun around and raised her leg, then slammed her heel right down onto the mask.
Ow.
It split open, and the yellow goop of Funfeist's hair splattered and painted the ground of the arena. She definitely wasn't getting up after that.
Probably not for a while, at least, but I see why this thing is called Party Girl now. It's a walking party invitation. And it does not take no
This
for an answer.
unkillable Kate ran over to me,
here we
grabbed
go.
my arm, and stared me in the
Entity
face.
20.
She said, "Listen closely. Rumor has it the level people call Fight for Your Life has a key hidden on it. Bestar sent dozens of its minions to try and find it, but they haven't yet. If you do find it and survive, you take it to the end, and you might be able to..." While she spoke, Bestar yelled out through his microphone, "You've sealed his fate now, Caitlin. He could have died gloriously in the arena, but now you've doomed him to be a meal for the Sea Butcher. Transporter."
Sea Butcher?
The last thing I heard was Kate whispering,
female.
"Take Anna with you. Tell her I'm not coming." Then, out of nowhere,
what
I
the
was
hell?
just suddenly falling through the air into the ocean. I splashed into icy water. My body shook from the cold, but my wounds burned from the salty waves.
Oh.
For a brief second, I thought I might actually be out of this insane place, but through a sheet of clouds, I could see there was actually still a ceiling above me.
Oh,
Even
damn
though
it.
this ocean looked like it went on forever, it was still a room of Baxell's prison.
Well, great.
When the shock of the scene change faded, I started to notice that there were skeletons floating around me. A lot had happened in those last few seconds before leaving the arena, but the name Bestar had said echoed through my mind. The Sea Butcher. Bestar probably could have had any of his freaks in there kill me if he wanted to, so if this was supposed to be some kind of punishment for Kate telling me stuff about the key and the end, then whoever was waiting for me in this place was probably a lot worse than anything I would have faced in that arena.
What's the whole story
I healed up
behind
my
Kate?
wounds, then started to swim, not really
I'd probably
knowing
have
where
to
I was
rewind
going,
and
but
re-listen
just
to what
knowing
he
I
said
wanted to get
about
moving.
or
Eventually, I
from
caught a
Paul,
glimpse
whatever.
of something in the distance and just started heading towards it. Took an hour
Not
of
a good
swimming to
idea.
even get close, but soon enough I could tell it was a house. It was flooded and smashed up, but getting to its porch at least let me sit down and have a rest for a few minutes. But I didn't
not
get to
bad, I
relax
guess.
long, because something caught the corner of my eye and made me jump. Whatever it was splashed back down into the water near me. I wasn't taking any chances though, so I just spun myself towards it and started shooting tons and tons of my green blasts at the water.
Don't waste your
"Come
energy.
try me, Sea Butcher!" I yelled out, trying to sound confident. But something suddenly leapt out of the water next to me and pushed me into the wall, clamping its hand over my mouth.
No, please, be quiet, for your own good.
It was definitely some kind of fish person in a wetsuit, but she didn't look like a killer. She actually looked around my age, way younger than every other maniac in this place. I calmed down a bit, but just as she slowly took her hand away from my mouth, something else leapt up out of the water near us.
Here we go. This must be the Sea Butcher.
Thing looked a heck of a lot more like a sea butcher.
There it
She
is.
spoke in a gargling voice. "Step aside, Anna. Your company isn't worth losing a meal over."
Anna?
Hearing that name
Isn't that
felt
the-
like an unusual but much appreciated stroke of luck. "Anna, are you a unkillable Kate's friend?" She replied.
You saw Kate? Is she okay? Has she killed Bestar yet?
I didn't really have answers beyond saying, "She told me how to escape this place, and she told me to take you
said she
with
wasn't
me, and
coming.
that she wasn't coming." Tears immediately started
sorry.
to well up in Anna's eyes, but Sea
that's what
Butcher
she said.
wasn't waiting anymore. She leapt right at me, and Anna pushed me out of the way as the freak smashed through the window next to us into the house.
Holy.
Anna turned to me and said,
This'll sound crazy, but you have to swim straight down until you pass out.
then she shoved me into the water.
What?
Sea Butcher leapt
Damn,
back
that
out the
does
window
sound
towards
crazy.
Anna, but somehow leapt right
alright.
through Anna. Then Anna turned and leapt onto the Sea Butcher's back, wrapping her arms around her neck from behind. I wanted to
Anna have
help,
the
but
ability
figured
to
she knew what
phase
she was
through
doing
people?
better than I possibly could in this place.
Not sure.
I started swimming down, really not excited about what I was about to do. In the depths beneath me, I could faintly make out a dark cave. And was that what I was headed towards? I mean, it didn't really matter because I was already out of breath and my throat was on fire. My whole body
All she said
screamed
was
at me
to
to turn
swim
back,
until
but
you
at that
pass
point,
out.
I wouldn't even make it back to the surface. My vision started to go black, and the last thing I felt was a slippery hand grabbing my wrist and pulling me farther down. I awoke what felt like an eternity later, lying in a damp cave across from Anna. She had a bunch of fresh wounds cut open across her body, but seemed to be ignoring them, and just said to me,
At least she's alive.
Please, tell me everything that Kate told you.
Whoa. This is definitely getting interesting. This would actually make a great webcomic.
And there we have Chapter 2 of The Escape from Baxell's Prison. Anyone who's a very long-time fan of the channel and has a really good memory may now actually recognize that not only have I introduced the kid, one of my old original characters, as the main character of this series, but I also introduced the unkillable Kate, who does appear a couple times in my old 20-year sketchbook tour video, and I had planned on bringing her in eventually. If you are enjoying this series, I would hugely appreciate it if you shared it with someone else that you think might enjoy it. As I said, I am going to give this series a definitive ending, but I would love to flesh the story out more and have it run a bit longer, and that'll be more justified if there's more people into watching it. And of course, if you're new to the channel, you might want to check out the first episode in this series, or maybe you'd like my Pokemon as SCP series. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note, and the thought I want to leave people with today is a little bit more targeted towards people who are interested in building their own business, or their own YouTube channel, or something like that, but it's that true entrepreneurship means giving up what you want now for what you want most. Might be a bit fun to play an hour of video games now, but ultimately taking that hour and spending it on building towards something you're trying to achieve is going to be a lot better for you long term. I hope that's
And well, that will be the end of today's video. So, I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Down in the description will be a link to the original channel and the original videos. So remember to support the original creator on all they do. And before we actually leave off, I want to hear in the comments y'all's favorite entity supervillain that he made in this episode. For me, I have to say it's a toss-up between the Hound and the Party Goer. But if I had to choose just one of them, I'd have to choose the Hound. Well, anyway, folks, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time on a brand new video. Peace out.